If you do all of those things, I think you can be whoever the fuck you want to be in like
Yep.
18 months.
Hey guys, welcome back to Be the Standard. I'm your host, Danny Jamazzo. I'm here today with a very special guest. His name is Dane Palarino. He is the founder of Dad Bod Sculptors and several other businesses as well. He's a husband, he's a father, and now he spends a lot of his time dedicated to helping men, particularly men over the age of 30, 35, getting their fitness back. And ultimately, I think you do more than that. I think you help men getting their life back. Great to have you, Dan. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate being on.
Yeah,
Excited.
of course. So, just talking to you earlier, it sounds like you're involved with, more than one business, right? Sounds like you've been kind of in the business space, the software world.
Yeah.
But it seems as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your passion seems to be Dad Bod Sculptors and, helping people in that capacity. Talk to me a little bit about, kind of how you got into that. I know you had some, physical fitness challenges yourself, and maybe things weren't going your way at one point or another, and you decided to make a change. Talk to me about that and how all of this kind of became.
Yeah. So before Dad Bod Sculptors, the last 14 years, I've been running a headhunting firm. I built two firms in the technology space, predominantly building C-level positions within the sales function, and then executive level placements. And then my second firm, which was Palarino Partners, focused on building world-class product management teams for hypergrowth SaaS companies. And that firm took a lot of my time, my energy, and my resources to get it to be a seven-figure business within 3 years. I had always been somebody that was athletic, trained, did some sort of physical movement, was always kind of health conscious. But at some point in my life, when I was 41, about to be 42, I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I went to enter into a competition at Orange Theory Fitness, which I had been doing for about 6 months, which is a group fitness class where they track kind of your data. And I was progressing in these classes. My endurance was getting better. So they did a transformation contest, and I was like, "Man, I'm within striking distance. I can win this thing." I thought I wasn't far off from looking phenomenal anyway. And they did a before picture, and the two dudes were like 23, 24 years old, like super fit dudes. They're like, "Hey, come upstairs. We're gonna take the before picture." And I was like, "Oh, you're gonna take the photos?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, something about me was like, "Shit," it made me a little bit nervous. So I went up there and took that photo, and they showed it to me, and it was like I wanted to stick my head so far up my ass and run out that building. I was so embarrassed. I was like, "There's no fucking way I look like this." Excuse my language. I'm like, I look like an eggplant. How did this happen? Uh, and I was pissed. I was pissed because I was fasting all day till like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Thought I was eating in a deficit every day, and I was training my ass off in these classes. I'd burn like 6, 7, 800 calories. So I'm like, what happened? And then I realized, like I wasn't happy in the body that I had built. And I started looking at like the last 3 years of my relationship with my wife and with my kids. And I recognized, like, yeah, I wasn't the same person I was years ago. And a lot of it stemmed from how I felt about myself. I became completely insecure. I had lots of negative self talk. And I recognized all my energy was going into building this business to build a successful practice, and I had exchanged my business success in exchange for my personal happiness. And I knew that that wasn't going to scale well as a father who's had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Now, I knew they didn't recognize these patterns. They just heard daddy being cranky every once in a while. But I knew when they were 10 and 7, right? And 8 and 5, like they were going to recognize like this dude's not very pleasant to be around. And I was short and curt with my wife pretty often. And I had recognized this pattern, Denny, where it was like I was the common denominator. And then when I saw that picture, it kind of made me realize like it's because I'm uncomfortable in my body. I don't like who I've become, and I didn't recognize this. And so I started to really observe, like, what do I need to do to solve this problem? And so that's where the journey began for me, because I felt that I was putting all the pieces together. I was training for an hour a day. I watched what I ate some of the times. I ate healthy foods like nuts and things like that, yogurts but sure enough, when I evaluated it, I was fasting all day, but at the end of the day, after 6 o'clock, I was consuming over 3,000 calories, and it was all the wrong calories. And that was
Yeah.
impacting how I showed up for my family and my business the next day. So I went on this journey of personal development to solve this problem for me, which was my body has obviously changed. It's not responding to what it once did. how after 35 can I optimize the way that I feed my body and train my body to actually change my body? Because I wanted to change, I wanted to get in a body that I was comfortable in, one that I didn't worry about when another man came around. Is my wife looking at him? Why is she looking at him and not at me? Like all these crazy thoughts that I would have and come up with these fights over no reason. And then it just kind of clicked, man. I watched that tape back of all these fights and it was like insecure moment, little bitch, baby, right? Child. And I just started to go like, this is not the man my kids need, right? And it's certainly not the man my wife needs. I don't know how much longer she can hold on to this and have grace with me because I wouldn't deal with me. So that led me into like, that's enough. Like, I'm going to bite down. I'm going to figure out a solution. I'm going to get a plan and I'm going to start implementing it. And that's what I did. I found a pattern that a series of habits that worked for me on a day to day basis. And I went on my own journey. And that eventually led to me transforming my body, helping all these men, and then launching Dad Bod Sculptors.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I think I think anytime, or for the most part, anytime, you know, it somebody decides to make any big change like that or any significant change, it comes, at the tail end of, some kind of a qualifying event. And in your case, recognizing that what was shit, like I thought I looked pretty good, but no, I don't. And,
Yeah,
I thought I was a pretty good dad, but wait, my
I'm not.
family's kind of yeah, my family's kind of taking a hit based off of, because I'm so focused on these other things, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think it almost always takes that qualifying event to drive you towards change. And I've been there as well, right? Not so much with the fitness stuff. I feel like I've kind of had that dialed in for the most part.
Yeah.
Since I was about 18. I lost my way a little bit after I got home from Afghanistan. I had two shoulder surgeries, so I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not working out, so I'm gonna eat like shit. Ate pizza, drank every day,
Yeah.
had the
Same.
surgeries, lots of medication and pills and all of that stuff. But um, now here I am, 41 years old, in my 40s like yourself. And man, I feel better than I did at, 28, 29, 30, whatever.
Yeah.
And, again, you think you're fueling your body the right way. You think you're working out the right way. And, um, it's humbling when you realize that you're really not. And it's time to make a change.
You're totally true, man. I recognize that. Like I was achy, I was groggy, and everyone was like, "Man, you're 40. Like, just accept it. This is what happens when you get older." And I was like, "Nah, man, this just can't be right." I was like, "I got 30, 35 more years in this body. There's no way I'm going to accept this. There's got to
Yeah.
be a different way." I saw guys on the internet making it happen. I saw dudes fit all over the place on TV and on the internet. I'm like, they're not walking around
Yeah.
all the time, but damn, they figured something out. I got to figure out this pattern. And so that's what I did. It was like, I went to the best. And for me, like the people that were great at sculpting bodies were pros. I was like, wait a minute, these dudes shape their body all day long. And I remembered early on in my journey of college, I had a roommate that was super dialed in. He was on track to go pros for MLB. So he ate everything clean, he trained all the time. And I had to pay my own way. So I wasn't into bad habits. I was working or studying all the time. And he was like, "Hey man, come to the gym with me." And then he would teach me about, I was like, "Hey, I'm going on this spring break." He would teach me about like how to eat properly. And I just remembered the regiment of having the meals and being planned and like being able to be focused and how much more successful I was. And I went back to that time and I was like, that was the happiest I ever was. I was the most disciplined. And like I always say to myself, like it was like this light bulb went off in my head where I was like, chicken and rice, motherfucker. I'm going back to the chicken and rice.
Yeah.
Like that worked well for me. And so
Yeah.
that led me back to like, oh, the bodybuilders eat the chicken and rice. Like, what are their habits? What are they doing? How are they sculpting? And I
Yeah.
would spend 2 hours every single night watching all these different videos and then like figuring out how to implement that in my own life and then going out and being the guinea pig, so to speak. And slowly but surely, man, like within 90 days, my body transformed to some degree. Like I gotten off a bunch of body fat. Everyone had recognized it. And I could have stayed there and been the average Joe for sure, because I fit in with everybody else in the gym. I wasn't out of shape, but I wasn't like, look, that guy's in shape. But I was more confident. I was grabbing my wife's hand again. I was desiring her again. I felt the part a lot more. And a lot of that, Denny, stemmed from like, I recognize I'm finally showing up for myself. I'm not showing up for a business or for money or for the act of going to work like I'm supposed to, but I'm showing up for me, and I'm
Yeah.
building me up again. And I mean, I literally went from like this slumped over little baby to like I was proud, I was looking myself in the mirror again. And so that was like that just really kind of made it this like, yeah, I need this needs to be a lifestyle. This can't be like, okay, we settle now that we got some of this weight off and then we go back to the bad habits. I just kept refining the habits and I chased not so much a quantifiable goal, but rather a mastery of the master plan.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said, a lot of the things you said, right? Because I think when it does come down to the diet piece, you talked about chicken and rice. It really is a simple way to fuel your body with all the right things, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
and to eat and supplement your body with the right nutrition is it's so easy. it,
Yeah.
it really is, it really is. And you know people don't understand that. And I think the biggest issue, and I've had this issue up until maybe 10 years ago, they don't know how to eat the right way,
Yeah,
right? They
dude.
don't know how to properly supplement their nutrition with the right things, as in addition to your food and
That's right.
all of those things. And you know I think just both of us being in our 40s, there's no shortage of guys that we know who have just gone so far in that other direction of, what, I got my wife, I got my kids now, and
It's
i'm
too late.
just
This
i'm
is the
just
life.
yeah, this is it, I've accepted it, I'm overweight, and it's just going to be what it is. And
Yeah.
man, do I hate seeing that. I'm tough on people. I don't have kids, so I try to factor that into my criticism.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I still believe that when I see a 9-month-old pregnant lady who's already got 2 kids and whatnot in the gym working,
Yeah.
that tells me that you have time,
Bro, you
right?
can
So
find the time. Yeah.
time, give me your schedule and I'll find the time, and
100%.
give me your finances and I'll find the budget to get you
That's
on the
right.
proper programming, right? So
Exactly right.
it's all there, all the resources are there, and you can do it. But just to touch off further on that topic, I'd love you to elaborate, just that balancing act of managing your family, managing your career, managing your fitness, and what that looks like for you.
Yeah, that's a great question because that was one of the first problems I had to solve. It was like, where am I going to find the time to do this? Right? How do I implement this into my already busy schedule? And so when I looked at it, like one of the guys that comes to mind is like Mark Wahlberg. He was like the 4 a.m. club and shit back then. And I was like, how the hell is this guy waking up at 4
He's a
o'clock in the
Boston
morning?
guy too. He's a
Yeah,
Boston guy
exactly.
too.
And I was like, all right, and then I started thinking, there's no way, like I like 6 o'clock would have been early for me. But I figured I've got to bite the bullet. I got to compromise some sleep, and that means I got to make some better decisions at night to try to unwind earlier, and I got to start getting up before they get up. I need to number one be ready to receive my family, right? And I was never ready to receive them. I was waking up with them or after them. So it was always like, hey, keep it down. Daddy needs his coffee, or mom and dad were getting in a scuffle. Now the kids are going off to school, seeing dad and mom arguing or dad yelling again. And it was like, dude, this isn't what they need. Like, these are the memories you want them to have. It was like, no. So I decided I need to compromise a little bit of TV time at night. I need to close that window down and set like an evening protocol that allowed me to unwind earlier so I can go to bed earlier and I can get up earlier. So the first step for me was getting up early. And it went from 5:30, okay, and then 5:30 turned to 5, and then 4:45, and then next thing you know, my body wakes up 3:30, 4 o'clock, like naturally over a series of time. And it was like, yeah, now I got like 2, 3 hours alone. And so that allowed me to do a lot of things. Number one, feed my body the right information, right? So I'd have 10 minutes a day of kind of reading the right information to get those thoughts positive, to get the momentum going around like, because I wake up negative most of the time. And most guys do. We wake up in a negative state because we're in a lower vibration. And there's lots of things that we're worried on. And we just kind of allow that to consume us. And now your family wakes up and it's like, ah, you're a fucking dragon on them. And it's like, okay, that's not going to work. If I'm going to get up early, I need to kind of get to a place to where, I'm ready. So I knew mentally I needed to change that game. So that was habit number two. And then number three was I got to get to a gym or I got to get my body moving. I need to raise my vibration. I need to get my sweat on. And all this anger and aggression needs to come out. And so I started going to the gym. So I was there from 6 to 7, back by 7:30. So that was when my kids and wife were getting ready to go to school. So I received them so much better. Right. It was like, wow. And now they go off and now I'm back and ready to go in the office at 8:30. And now I had my elevator vibration. I had the right thoughts in my mind. I had a couple of W's that I patted myself on the back with. Like, dude, you went to bed early. You woke up early. You had a training session. Now what are we going to do? Well, you can blow the day or, hey, follow the fucking meal plan that you put out for yourself. And so I set these micro goals of like every 4 hours, I'm going to fuel my body. I'm not going to seek flavor, this big lunch, and then sit in a food coma for 2 hours and wait for the next caffeine shot. It was like, I'm going to feed it what it needs, only what it needs. And then I'm going to be where my feet are for 4 hours in a work block. And then I'm going to feed it again, be where my feet are in a work block. And then I'm going to be ready for the end of the day and receive my family. And now I could be where my feet are and enjoy them. And so those are these micro habits that I had in my routine that was like, wow, I just opened up a whole nother day. So it was like I got 2 days in one, and I still run that same schedule. And the last thing
Yeah.
that I did was I made sure that I took alcohol out because I noticed when I put alcohol in, the old version of myself would always come back. I'd always go
Yeah.
back to these old thoughts and feelings. And it was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not doing all this other shit to have this guy keep coming up.
I love that. I love that a lot. I can't sit here and say I never drink, right? But
Yeah.
I can say that one of the most positive improvements I've been able to make is just cutting the alcohol down substantially, right?
Yeah.
Um, and if I do drink, it's one, two. I can't remember the last time I was drunk or really felt like, just like I've really overdone it or anything like that. Like that
Yeah.
just doesn't happen anymore. So I'm glad you touched upon that because I think, I see it all the time. Like, I'll go to my gym and I'll see certain people and then I go out once in a while and then those people are out getting smashed doing shots and it's like, oh man, because
Well,
it's
how
kind
did
of a
your body
small
recover? When
community,
you get
right?
over 35, 40, man, your body just doesn't recover
Oh,
anymore from those types of events.
yeah, it's just not enjoyable anymore, right? Like again, a drink here and there, I'll do it, but yeah, that's such an important piece to maintaining your fitness and nutrition. But
Yeah.
one of the things you touched upon there is the habits, right?
Yeah.
We talked about before we started recording was the how I worked in software as well, and I still do. But my first job in software, I worked at Oracle, and it was shortly after getting out of the military. And I would get up at 5 o'clock every day, go into the gym because it's about an hour commute. I would
Yeah.
drive out there an hour, go to
Yep.
the gym, and then I'd go into the office. And then people would be like, "Denny, how do you do that? I don't understand. I can't wake up that early. You can
Yeah.
you can you can only do that because you were in the military." And I'm like, "No, anybody can do this. It's not like you
The-
can train your body to do anything.
Anything.
Waking up, anybody can get on a sleep schedule. I don't care. Oh, I'm not a night person. I'm not an early person. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, dude.
no, it doesn't work that way. You are what you say your habits say that you are.
That's
And
100% true.
you can do whatever you want to do. It's just suck
Just
it up
being
and fucking
conscious and
do it.
making those changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, so, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I want to get into, you know, uh, obviously that funnels into discipline, right? And the role of discipline
Yeah.
and in what the transformation looks like. Because I think a lot of people, and I hear it all the time, and it annoys the hell out of me. Is I need to get motivated to go back into the gym, and I say the same thing every time. Like motivation only gets your ass out of whatever chair it's in,
Yeah.
and your habits and your discipline ultimately dictate what happens next. So that to me is way more important than being motivated. Not that they're both not necessary, but man, if you're counting on motivation to drive results,
It's
long term,
fleeting.
I think you're in trouble.
Yeah. 100%, man. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes, but if you want to stay the course, you cannot rely on it. You need to be self-motivated to execute a plan daily, and that plan should be based on habits and rituals that allow you to raise your vibration and get through the day with all the energy you need, with the right attitude you need. And so for me, it was never a quantifiable goal that I was chasing. It was always mastery of a day. And mastery of a day was mastery of the habits. And I simplified the habits so that I can control the controllable. Because so many things in my day as a business owner, as a father, as a husband, as a son were uncontrollable. So I could only control how I responded to those things. And I noticed the more control I took over my life and of my schedule and of my habits, the more I didn't react to events that showed up in my life. Right. I was more prepared mentally. So I always say that the physical side and the nutrition side, they're pieces of the puzzle, but it's really you're on a journey of self-development. You should be spending more time developing yourself than you should be working on any other thing, whether that's your job, your business, your employees, your marriage. You need to always develop yourself first, and that starts with the mind. And if you can get your mind rewired with the right habits that allow you to kind of propel your life forward with waking up early is one of them, because it's a great way to set the right tone and say, hey, I'm ready to receive the world and attack from not my heels but from my toes, right? And you've already got advantage number one. Number two is kind of getting the right information in your brain. Like for me, that was reading 10 minutes a day of a book that allowed me to kind of understand how to change my perspective around things, because I knew if I changed the way I look at things, the things I looked at changed. And so that became addicting. I wanted to constantly be reminded of that. And then three, for me, the workout in the morning was critical, because it got rid of I could put all that energy, that anger, that frustration into something and feel better on the other side 100% of the time. There was no doubt around that. So I knew that that belief served me really well, that that sweat, that push, that grind, even though I dreaded getting up and going to it, I was going to be a better person for the people I loved and served after it. And then four was the micro goals. Like, okay, we're going to stay engaged in this day with the meals. And the meals were going to make me, I wasn't chasing flavor. I had the meals that were going to be fuel. And that fuel helped me get closer to my other goals in life, my business goals, my marriage goals, my parenting goals. Like, I was a better person because of the things I put into my gut. The things we put into our gut are a direct correlation to the thoughts that we have. So if you're not feeding this down here properly, you're not thinking properly up here. Once you recognize that, then you start to go like, well, should I put this neurotoxin in right now? Should I eat all this sugar? Because it's going to impact how I show up. And so then the last one was, sustaining from alcohol. Like you, Denny, I was drinking the last 18 months of my journey. Like first 18 months I was drinking, but I wasn't drinking to get drunk. I would have a tequila maybe on a Friday or Saturday, one or two. It was more to social, to engage with my wife while she had some wine. But I started to put two and two together, and I was like, I would sometimes, the old guy would come out and I would pick little fights. But then I was like, I'm doing all this other work with the training, the waking up, the nutrition, the mindset. And now I'm putting this in here, and it's stopping all the fat burning. It's stopping all the muscle building. Why am I doing that? And so I eventually decided to take it out. But one of the biggest ways that I was motivated, my habits and routine were so predictable, my kids became aware of them, right? So they knew dad did this was dad. Dad ate differently. Dad went to the gym every day. Dad transformed his body. Dad now had abs. So they were proud of that. So I would educate them on why I eat certain things. And dad's a bodybuilder. I made a different association for them, right? They didn't know what a headhunter was. They knew what a bodybuilder was because they could see it on TV. So I said, bodybuilders don't eat that. Bodybuilders don't drink that. And it was a way for them to relate. But one of the moments was I used to drink tequila and I'd have a margarita here and there. And we went to a Mexican restaurant and I went to go order a tequila. And my son was like, I said, oh, I'm going to get a tequila now. I'm going to get a margarita with tequila or something like that. I said tequila, the word tequila. And he's like, but dad, I thought you said bodybuilders don't drink alcohol. And I was like, damn. Yeah. I was like, and it hit me right in
He
the
called
heart,
you
man. It
out.
was like, yeah, it was like, now I can't have a fucking margarita, And I was like, all right. So I was like, I had a choice there, right? I order the margarita and I tell them a different story now, but I was like, I can't do that. Like I can't be two-faced there. I gotta not have the margarita. So I didn't. And then the next time, about a month later, we all went out for a celebration with some friends and family. And again, everyone's having drinks. And I was like, I'm gonna do a shot of tequila. I was like, I'm gonna get one shot of tequila. And the son of a bitch from down the other end was like, hey dad, bodybuilders don't drink alcohol. I'm like, he's damn, he's right. And that was it. I was like, I could never pick that thing up again because the kid, he
Yeah,
held me to a standard. And that's why I love your show. I raised the standard so high that my kids held me to it.
I
And
love
that was a
that.
game changer, dude. So I
Yeah,
haven't drank since.
that's fucking great, man. I do. I love that. Again, I keep it to a minimum, but I do love the idea of, when people are like, I don't drink at all. And, one of the things I've gotten better at is, in social settings, instead of getting my, vodka and soda water, I just get a soda water and nobody knows what the hell I'm drinking. And it's like, I don't feel awkward. I still have a drink in my hands, nobody knows the difference. And,
Yes.
life goes on. And, for me, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks anyways. And I like the taste of soda water, so it works.
Yeah, it does. It's whatever
uh,
you can do, dude. I teach
yeah,
guys that all the time. Like, be the standard in your circle, be the standard in your family. Like we're always talking about that. And guys
yeah,
that are either divorced or on their path looking for a woman, I'm like, the woman that you want to attract, the woman that's going to be your ride or die, isn't going to embrace you because you put this into your body. But when you tell her, hey, I don't do this, boy, she just put a whole different lens on the way that she looks at you. She's like, wow, that's discipline's attractive as fuck. I need a little bit of that. He's leading his own life that way, and they gravitate towards you a lot better. So you're going to pull the right partners. You're going to attract the right followers. So even, you don't have kids or anything, but as a
Right.
dad, I knew I was a different person when I drank. And I knew that my son was now starting to recognize dad's a little bit different when he drinks. And so that was why I had, just done enough 1 + 1 that equals two. And I was like, yeah, man, this is the end of the show for me. But I don't judge anybody that does it. I just try to hold these guys to this standard in my program so that they can get the body transformation as quick as possible. And if they get enough momentum and they see the results, they make that decision on their own.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And yeah, no, I like that a lot, everything you've said so far. And, one of the things I wanted to talk about was, we talked a little bit about, nutrition and all of that. But, you know, as far as nutrition and training for men specifically, like over, call it 35, right? I think, that's kind of when a lot of guys hit their, they start, the testosterone starts to drop and all
Yeah.
these things start to change and things start to get harder. Alcohol consumption being one of them, and dealing with that and rebounding from that, and
Yes.
all of these things. What do you teach these guys as far as nutrition and what to put in their body from like a supplement perspective? Because I've seen a lot of guys, particularly our age, that are just like, oh, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna get back into working out, what supplement should I take? And it's like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes, pump the
Yes.
brakes. Let's get on a program, and then start
Yes.
thinking about supplementation. So what's kind of your advice and your coaching strategy around that?
Yeah, supplements is a piece of the puzzle, but I always say, man, if you're not doing the first two pieces, which is training right and feeding the body right, the only thing
Mhm.
supplements are doing for you is changing your pee color and putting a hole in your pocket. So
Agreed. Yeah.
that's the reason. Number one, you got to get a program that is sustainable for you. So whether that's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, or anything above that is a bonus. But how long can we commit to the gym? And when we're in the gym, we're going to do a very specific style of training that one allows us to build against the atrophy that's happening with our muscles. So we're going to focus on building muscle properly, build that foundation strong. And so we do that through hypertrophy training, hypertrophy style training, which is progressive overload. We want to make sure that we avoid injury at all costs. That was why when I looked at the landscape, it was like I went to 1 or 2 CrossFit classes and I was like, no way, dude. One slip here, the back's done, and this journey is over. And so I always made sure I can do bodybuilding in a controlled environment. I can control the weight. I can keep the muscle under tension longer. I don't have to do super heavy weights. So it's about control and being effective. So we teach them how to do that with weights. We want to build the muscle to help increase the testosterone. And then two is the nutrition piece. We want to make sure now that we're training the muscle properly, that we're putting in the right foods that are optimal for your body to digest rather quickly, get into the bloodstream so that that bloodstream can deliver those nutrients to the muscle group. Because right now, when you're eating 2 meals a day, all the blood's going to your gut to help digest that food. And then once it gets released into the fat stores. So we have to take the guy's body after 35 and take it from a storage unit and turn it into a furnace. And sometimes that happens in 7 days, sometimes 14 days. But that's what we're doing. We're taking them from that storage unit, holding on to everything in the gut and the waistline, and we slowly start to turn that thing into a fat burning machine. And we do that through the meals. And the meals aren't just any foods, they're optimal foods, the optimal proteins, optimal carbs, and optimal fats, and the right balance of those based on your body weight, your age, your goal, and all of that. So we calculate all that, and it's basically, hey, man, we're going to lead you to the water. You just got to drink every day. Like this is literally done for you. We tell you what to train, when to train, how to train it, what to eat, when to eat, how much exactly of it to eat. Just follow the program. And every single week, we calibrate how we're progressing. And sure enough, if they're doing the work, at least 80% of it, even 70% of it, we see the scale go down, the energy go up, the attitude get better. And then they go, well, I'm only doing like 60% of this. Imagine if I did 70% of this deal. And then they start to get a little bit more dialed in on compliance. And so week to week, we work at how do we get better at compliance. And then the third piece of that is now that we're training the right way, now that we're eating the right way, now we're going to put some supplements in naturally that are going to help optimize this process for us so we can hit our goals quicker. And then the fourth piece is you got to keep the body moving. You want to hold on to the muscle, but we do want to reduce the body fat because a lot of guys, dude, my age are carrying body fat 25, 30, 35%. And that's just not healthy for them. So we
Yeah.
put in very strategic cardio to make sure that they're not increasing the risk of injury. They're not killing themselves trying to run a marathon, but they're holding on to their muscle while pulling that body fat down. And so we give them cardio protocols. So those are kind of the four pillars. And then the fifth pillar is weekly accountability, making sure every single day you've got somebody to message if you're ever stuck, but also every single Friday you're going to know Dane Palarino's checking in. You're going to have to answer some questions to tell him what you did, how well you did it, how your body was responding, and then we calibrate. So we keep them engaged, because when you keep a man engaged and you tell him what to do, when to do, how to do it, but you also tell them why you're doing it, they tend to become more competent. And when they're more competent, they're more confident in the outcome. And they tend to put a lot more energy behind things that they believe in.
Yeah, no,
Does that make
that's
sense?
awesome. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I couldn't agree more. I think men are just kind of they do need that direction, right? They need that
Simplicity.
like it's yeah, and it's like guys like myself when from being in the military, it's like be here at this time in this uniform,
You
ready to
love
do
that.
this. Oh
Yeah.
man, I function best in that environment. And it's funny. I think I already told you this, but I'm 41 years old, and I just got on my first weightlifting program or workout program, if you
Yeah.
want to call it that, for the first time ever. And
Oh,
I've been
wow.
working out since I was 18. And one of my a guy that I had on the show, a good friend of mine, he's like an ex-Army Ranger, and he does something similar. He offered to do it for me for free, and I was like, yeah, man, of course, because I had never done it before, man. And you know, it's so important to if you're serious about it to get on a program, right? I
Yeah.
think when you walk into the gym freelance and you just pick your workouts from some website or something. I mean, I think that's it's better than nothing, I
Yeah.
guess, but it's not
You're
going to drive
showing up.
results. It's not going
Yeah.
to drive results, right?
That's right.
And I kind of I wish Mike was here because Mike actually he's my co-host and best friend. He actually owns a CrossFit gym, and
No
um,
offense.
no. He wouldn't. For him, he's very simple, man. It's like do what works for you, and that's all
That's
he
right.
ever says. And you know, because I had the same problem, and I've told him this again. I'm his best friend, and I did CrossFit for about 5 years, and I got decent at it. Not a stud, but pretty decent. And but I always felt like I was nursing some kind of or fighting off some kind of an injury, right? Whether I did a
Yeah.
clean and my wrist came back too far, so now my wrist fucking hurts, or like,
Yes.
I'm doing all these kipping pull-ups, now my biceps fucked up, and
Yeah.
whatever it is. And it just seemed like there was always some kind of a nagging injury. But one of the things I want to touch upon is, and I know Mike loves this, and this is why Mike loves CrossFit so much, is the community aspect about it.
Yeah.
And I know that that's something that is kind of important to you, something you've done, and that's building a community around a common goal, a common interest, and
Yeah.
kind of attacking that together. So, tell me a little bit about how you go about doing that, because I know it's something that
That
resonates with you as well.
Yeah, dude, that's a big piece. That was one of the things I wanted CrossFit to work out. Like, I was like, I love the aspect that a bunch of dudes are getting in there, getting after it. Like, that community aspect kept pulling me towards it. Like, I went and visited a couple of times over 3 years. And then it was just something about me. I was like, oh man, all I need is a good excuse to stop this thing, you know? And I was like, there's just going to be a lot of availability to do that in the CrossFit for me. So for me, it was about accountability. Like, I didn't have anybody holding me accountable at first. Like, I did the journey alone. I didn't have my wife to kind of fall into information on. So it was kind of like sometimes, is this working? Is this not? And so when I built this, I wanted guys to know, hey man, I'm doing this thing with you. I live this lifestyle. I'm not some coach that, oh, Uncle Rico type guy. Like, you should have seen me in my 20s. I was a real good bodybuilder, and now I'm going to teach you all the good stuff. I live this thing, right? So I make these guys I make myself available to them from 4 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. Like, they have direct access to me daily. So it's always like, you ever get stuck, you got a victory, you got a frustration, anything, your personal life, your training life, your nutrition, I'm here. Like, that's what I'm here for. That's why I don't take on thousands of guys. And then number two, the community piece is every single Friday, we do a group call where we bring on all of our guys, and those guys come on and we talk about, like, hey man, this week my son started doing push-ups with me. Like, we hear the greatest stories from guys that are different parts of their journey, but they're all having these revelations, and they give the guys earlier in the program insight into, like, damn, how do I get like Mike? He seems to be like the superstar of the program. Like, what did you do well, Mike? How do you recommend I kind of attack this? So they get this effect of like learning from other guys in similar situations on the same journey. And it's sometimes about the training aspect and being having the right intensity, but sometimes it's about, hey, my wife's not supportive. How do you get your wife behind this, even though you're doing something selfish? Sometimes it's about like, hey, my kids are now like super curious about my lifestyle, and we didn't have a really good relationship, but now that I'm actually doing this thing, and you get all this support, which you don't really get in the real world. Like, guys, we become so isolated. And even in like business, when you have success in business, you can't tell anybody that, right? Because envy kicks in and ego comes to the plate. And when you're failing, it's like, oh, there's no good time to kick you now. Like, now's the chance, kick the son of a bitch, he's down. And so like we tend to become so guarded with our information. And so this is a place for guys every Friday. It's like we come, we put our guards down, and we talk about, hey, we're all on this same journey. Some of you guys are a year in, some of you guys are 2 days in, but like we're going to unpack like a lesson of the week, and then we're going to unpack challenges, frustrations, victories, and all that. And so it becomes this great call every single week, and then we record it, and guys that miss the call get access to it. So that's a great way that we've built it up. And we are now launching our school community, which is an extension of that, which will be kind of a place for all of them to gather and chat every single day. So those are the two components to the group piece that we have.
That's awesome. So is the majority of what you do, is it online? Do you do like any like in-person like group things and sessions, or
No,
how does that work?
yeah, it's all online. So everything
Okay.
we have a custom app. So all they basically download the app to their phone. They can get access to it on the web. And every single day they've got their training section, their cardio section, their supplementation, their nutrition, their messaging, their weekly check-ins, so they can see how they're progressing in body fat, in weight, in their progress pictures. So it's all in one central location. And then we house everything right in there. And so that's how I deliver the services through the app.
That's awesome. And one of the things that you mentioned that you offer that I like is the group calls that you do and the community calls,
Yeah,
because you know, I think a lot of positive things come out of those types of calls, right?
they do.
There's so many, group chats and stuff that men are involved in, and they're all a bunch of bullshit and sharing memes and this and that. But, getting a group of guys together to talk about, their fitness journey and their nutrition journey and what's happening, from a good perspective, bad perspective. What are we learning? What are we failing at?
Yes.
How can we be better? And just learning from one another. That might be, one of the more valuable tools that you provide. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is, man. I give you an example. Like one of the things, so I'm learning all throughout the week what some guys are struggling with in the different stages, right? So I'll gather the most common theme and be like, this is the most valuable thing that I can give to the community this week. So the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the call, I'm giving an example of that. So some guys would be like, oh man, I hit a plateau. I need a new program. And we track, everybody gets a Whoop in my program. And Whoop tracks, it's a wearable technology where we can track your strain, your recovery, and your sleep quality, which are really important data points for us to measure how somebody is doing. So I'll say, okay, this guy wants a new workout plan. Let's look at his strain. I'll look at the Whoop strain, and I'm like, dude's got like a 5.7 strain. He's burning like less than 1,000 calories. And obviously, it's not a plateau, it's intensity, right? It's not, it has nothing to do with the Ronnie Coleman and Arnold Schwarzenegger trained the same muscle group the same way for years and kept building it better and better and better. So it's not the shiny red apple that they need. They need a lesson on how to approach and attack that plan. So I went in and basically said, like, hey guys, let me give you an idea around how to reframe this. Like, number one, you need to be intentional. You all paid money to have a blueprint. You need to read that blueprint at night to know, what am I training tomorrow? How did I train it last week? How am I going to move and think and act in the gym tomorrow? You have to visualize, I'm going to go in there with intensity. And when we're in there, we know exactly what to do. Now we need to execute it with intensity. You need to activate the beast and step into that room and say, okay, who I was outside is not showing up in here for the next 45 or 60 minutes. You need to bring that intensity. And I know if you're bringing it because I can see the data. Bro, like 20, 30 people the next day sending me screenshots of their Whoop, double effort. Hey, man, listen to the call. It was like, I didn't realize how many people needed that. But sometimes you get caught up in just going through the motion of being in the gym. And you need somebody to say, like, no, man, reframe that. Get in there, put your favorite song on, find the moment that you're fucking most pissed off at in life, and put it into the workout tomorrow. Like, you
Oh
got the
man,
plan. Now you need to execute the plan.
I love that. And just for me personally, right? I just reposted something that Nick Lavery put out recently, and that was, you can go through your programming, or you can go through, understanding how to, execute certain movements and whatnot. But
Yeah.
the most basic fundamental understanding of building muscle and really improving your physique is understanding that, intensity is a requirement. Training hard
Required.
is a requirement.
Yeah.
Uh, and we all have our days where going through the motions, it just kind of happens, right? Like
Right.
you can't be perfect every day. I don't give a fuck who you are.
No.
It's just you're not going to be perfect every day. But the basic understanding and those basic principles, if you can just apply that, I think is awesome.
Yes.
Just
The
it's an
intensity is a big
absolute
piece, dude.
requirement.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to change your body, right? Like you have to change, you're trying to really recomp it. You have to kind of connect. Like, I may not be great at math, but like simple math says, like, I gotta really change this thing. Like, am I pushing hard enough? Am I sweating hard enough? Is my heart rate pumping well enough to really physically impact it to where the next hour after the session, I'm gonna be pretty drained, right? Exhaust the body, tame the mind. Like, am I exhausting the body to the point where it's gonna force the change? And then if you do that, you can say, all right, job well done. And then if you don't, you hit the cardio hard. Like, so you have like the training piece and then you have the cardio piece. So if your training's a little bit sore and you can't like be a 10 out of 10, because usually by day 4 or 5, like I can't give it a 10 out of 10 like the first 3. So I'm like, all right, well, at least when I hit that cardio, I'm going to work on that cardio machine. I'm going to make sure I push this blood. I'm going to make sure that I earn the hunger, that those carbs are going to come in and be earned and get to work for me. And so it's just
Yeah.
reframing things for guys and really keeping them engaged to the common sense piece, which is simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, and one of the things I say all the time, just in addition to that intensity piece and just feeding off of what you just said, is fitness, in my opinion, it's the catalyst for everything else.
Totally.
If you can push your body and push your mind super hard and just go to those dark places, right? And,
Yeah.
and I do that every single time I work out. I go to the darkest place I can find, and I'm there for, like you said, 45 to 60 minutes.
Yeah,
And I think it's just, again, fitness is the catalyst to all of it,
it
and it
is.
translates into so many other things. Like you're a better dad because you work out hard. You're a better husband because you work out hard. I guarantee your business is seeing growth because you work out hard,
Yeah.
right? It really is just the catalyst. It gets everything else in order, and
Yeah.
I say that all the time. It's so important.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna give you an example. So, like my other business, I had spent over 10 years trying to build this ideal business, and this ideal business was the one I was running. I had gotten the business to where we were number one on Google. We went from 0 leads a month to
Wow.
30, almost 30 leads a month. Now, these are high ticket services, so the minimum
Yeah.
was a $50,000 placement. On average, they were 75K, and some were over 100K. It would take me 15 minutes to do a call. We would do some research and it would take me a follow-up call 15 minutes and I would close that search. 15K down with another 35 to 75 coming within 90 days, right? It was the ideal business. I didn't have to search for it, hunt for it, cold call for it. I did all that work in the prior, right? I should have been there forever. But something in me said I'm not happy anymore. Like I don't even want to get out of bed anymore to do this job and I waited 10 years to have this type of job and business in my life, but I had a body that I wasn't proud of and that I didn't like being in. So it impacted how I showed up there. Every task was, oh, fuck, I got to send an email today, like, oh, I got to do these tasks. And it was just like just a pull. When I got fit and I changed my whole routine and my habits, I get to the office, I could have 30 tasks, but I had the mindset of I just squatted 235, 200 times. I can do these fucking 10 tasks today. It's not a problem. And then how that translated was I enjoyed my business more. It 10x, like well,
Yeah.
5x in that year on the recruiting side, but then it gave me this business. This whole business from scratch I've built in the last year from nothing to where it is now. And I that would have never came to me at 41 years old. I've landed paid sponsorship athletes with more than 5 of the best brands around supplementation, around protein bars, around hats, around gear, around macronutrients, like all paid deals. If you would have said to me at 41, hey, in 3 years, if you stay to this, you'll be paid athlete and sponsor, I'd be like, for what? A Budweiser commercial? Like nobody's fucking paying me for anything, And now to think that I was able to make those changes in my own life, which impacted the way that I looked, and people were drawn to me for my physique, is just mind blowing. And then from there, I was able to leverage my test in life, which was throw in the cards and accept this average Joe fucking life that you've now built that has a good, successful financial income, or you change the way you're going to do business and you raise the bar in your own life. And by doing that, you just have belief and anything else you do. It's like I knew I could do this business. I haven't been on camera at all in my other business ever. It was a phone business. I almost never got on camera. So it was like, well, you're gonna have to show your life. I never did that. Well, you're gonna have to make videos. I never did that. But the work that I did in the fitness and the
Yeah.
discipline that I started to instill gave me so much more confidence. So I tell guys, you may be in a different career in 3 years. You don't know where this is going to
Yeah.
take you. The point is, go and chase your best self. Try to beat the guy from the day before and just trust that as you do that, the things you chase, you'll never fucking catch. But go and raise yourself to the man that you think the world deserves and gift that person to the world and watch what comes to you. And all of that
Yeah.
stuff, I don't say it to brag at all. It all came to me. I didn't chase any of those deals, any of those partnerships. They all came to me. The brand, the idea, the partnerships, the money, the guys. It was like, this was me 3 years ago. This guy's 3 years ago. So now I don't have clients like I had in recruiting. I literally have friends. That's the
Yeah.
best part. Like, I don't look at these guys as clients. They are friends. Like, I know about their kids, their families, their personal problems, their professional problems. And I'm like, I'm getting paid to do this. This is unreal.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I love hearing you talk like that because, that's, I'm on that journey as well, right? I've only been at this 6 months, and just the network that I've built in 6 months it's been insane to me.
Yeah. They're pulling to you,
And,
man. I found you.
and yeah, yeah. And it's like, it's been crazy. It's been humbling. It's been fun. But dude, for me, it was like, I'm just going to start this and just see what happens. I'm going to figure it out along the way. And like you said, all these things now are starting to trickle
Yeah.
in. But
Yeah.
my focus, I'm trying to keep my focus on, how much I can help, how can
That's
I
right.
help this guy, build his brand. I just read this guy, Trevor Beeman, man. If you don't know who he is or haven't seen him, check his book out, man. It's on my Instagram.
Okay.
Awesome fucking book. He's a Green Beret, about to retire, I think, in the spring. Phenomenal, dude.
I will
But
check it
just
out.
these friendships that I'm building and these relationships, and I got invited to a gala next month for veterans where Nick Lavery's the keynote speaker, and just all these cool things are happening. But I love the way you said it, and it's a result of all the work that you put into yourself,
Yeah.
and you push that version of yourself out there, and you show yourself, and it's uncomfortable. It can be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But when you do that, the return on that minimal investment, really, I mean, not that it's not a lot of work. I work my ass off,
Yeah.
but it's pretty fucking cool to be doing this as opposed to other things. So,
Yeah.
uh,
100%, man.
yeah, man.
100%. When the journey starts off doing work for yourself, but once you get to the other side of it, you realize this wasn't for me. This was for
Mhm.
now what I'm able to gift the world. Like, I
Yeah,
am built the best version of myself, and every day I try to beat the guy before, but I'm giving that and gifting that to the world. I'm helping other men find that within themselves. And when they raise their standard, everybody in their circle now says that's the one. And then they want to raise themselves up to that. Like, somebody asked me, like, what's up with the dad bod phenom the other day? I'm like, nobody in their life has standards. And now society and media tells you that that's okay. So they're like, well, it's okay. I'm the provider, I'm the protector. Now my chick thinks this is sexy. Fuck no, she doesn't. It's
no,
because
she
you're
doesn't.
standing next to nobody that has standards. You know what I
Right.
mean? But when you have a
Yep.
man of standards and he walks in a room, everybody's like, who's that dude? He obviously is doing something different. And they're curious
Yeah.
about you. And when you have the gift of curiosity in your life, you have the ability to influence. And if you're a person that is well intended, you get to influence another person with those intentions to take the right path, take the right action, don't make the bad decision. And if you are a father, then that's a very powerful tool to have in your household as you lead your wife and your kids, right? Have them
Sure.
curious enough about your life to where they're asking, well, how did you do that, Dad? Because I don't know about you, you don't have kids, but a lot of guys watching this, if they're anything like my kids, I could tell them till I'm blue in the face to do something, they just won't do it. But the right, they're just there, and so that I realized when I started doing things and then they wanted to work out next to me and they wanted to impress me, it was like habits aren't taught, they're caught. Like, damn, here I am, like always having these lectures and they're not listening worth the shit. They turn right off. But go in the gym, Dane, and start doing some cardio. Both kids show up. Both kids start playing with the rubber bands. Both kids start working out next to me. It's like I didn't have to say a word, and I have dozens of clients that have these same examples where their kids within a month or two they see them getting better and dad's happier and dad's energy's higher and dad's looking a little bit differently because he's been eating a little bit differently. Man, people are super curious, and when you have that curiosity, you have the power to influence, and I think that
Oh,
that's a superpower.
yeah, man, absolutely. And something I say often is that your body really is it's your business card, right?
It's your
Like
resume, bro.
you walk into a room and people they recognize that you're in shape and that you probably live a lifestyle that's different than what they live at home. And I
Yeah.
I used to catch it a lot when I would go into the office at Oracle before I became a remote worker. I go into an office and we'd be in the conference room, the team and whatnot, and there'd be jokes like, "Oh, Denny, about my physique and just
Yeah,
whatever." And
because you're a
it
man
was
of standard, so they
flattering,
got to take
right?
shots at you.
Yeah, yeah, and it was flattering and whatnot and funny at the same time. But yeah, man, people do recognize, and like you said, when you present yourself a certain way with a certain type of presence, people gravitate towards it, and
Yeah.
you're allowed to, and it gives you that ability to influence others in a positive way.
Dude, I'll give you an example too here because I'm a headhunter. So I had a guy that
Yeah,
came to me through one of my posts on LinkedIn. Now I had recruited this guy like 7 years ago. So I'd known him through there. And he came up and said, "Hey man, I really need the help." So we jump on the call. Like, what's your happiness? It's a 2. What's your confidence? It's a 3. How often are you drinking? 5 nights a week. What do you do? I travel for business. How long you been in the company? 7 years. All right, well, let's get you on the program. I need to hold off on it. Well, what are you holding off for? You just like you couldn't have worse numbers. Like you had like one off of the worst number in every category. Oh, the money thing. All right, do you think the money's going to get better or worse based on the state that you're in? Well, I think there might have some layoffs and things like that. And then he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to still hold off. Like I think there are going to be some changes here, but if you know anybody looking," and I'm thinking you would be the last person I would recommend to anybody looking, right?
right,
Number one, you've been complacent for 7 years, and it shows because you've been at one company. Number two, you've been relying on a bonus, so you haven't performed. And number three, if you show up, you're far from a disciplined man in eyesight, right? Your face is bloated, your body is shaped like an eggplant. I said the best thing you can do is spend this time while you're still employed, getting your shit dialed in. Because if you submit a resume, I'm a headhunter, all it is a piece of paper on a stack with a bunch of letters on it. And everybody knows ChatGPT is there, so we just give up on the fucking words. But you show up in a room as the most fit, the most jacked. You elevate the room and expectation of the hiring manager. He thinks, well, fuck, if he's got standards like this, I wonder what kind of standards he's going to bring to the workplace. I wonder how he's going to make me look better in my job. I wonder how he's going to raise the expectation and standard in the work environment. That's how you separate yourself nowadays. You absolutely don't by putting more things on your resume. They're so inundated with people and layoffs. You need to physically be a representation of that resume. Not, oh, look at the words I wrote and the accomplishments. And then you look at them and you're like, dude, you don't look like you've been inside of a gym in fucking 5 years. Like, where are those standards? So I like try to challenge people, not to take shots at them, right? But to really to get them to wake up and say, like, you need to put different lenses on because the world is changing, brother. There no longer are 3 classes, the upper, middle, and lower. There's 2 classes. And you're either raising up against that vibration as the waters and tides rise, and you're doing it by investing and developing self, or you're slow boiling frog, bro. You're becoming unusable in the world, and you're not recognizing it. So you have to develop. You can't afford not to develop, in my opinion.
yeah. No, I don't even think I could really piggyback off there. I think you said that perfectly. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I'll say this, if I didn't already have somebody doing my programming for me who, I think is very solid, I'd fucking work with you. I'd work with you. I mean,
Yeah, I'll get you on phase 2.
all right, man. Uh, but yeah, no. So this, I've really enjoyed talking with you. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to touch upon, man, but I've enjoyed this conversation a lot, man.
Me too, man. Thanks for you. You did a great job kind of leading the conversation. And I get super passionate. So anybody sees that, man, I am super filled with passion and purpose. Like I don't put a filter on it. So what comes out, comes out. I never regret it. I don't
Yeah.
call up editors and say, "Hey, can you cut that out?" My wife's like, "Hey, can you swear a little bit less?" I'm like, then I'm having to think about my words and I don't do that. Uh,
Yeah.
so hopefully they don't mind the foul language at times, but I live from this place. And if you are watching this and you're inspired at all, or you're shook from some of this, and you should probably take a look inside and say, hey, is this the time where I need to now act to get to that better version? Or do you just close it and go on to the next podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that a lot. I sometimes try to dial back in the language a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's just it's me. It's how I talk, and when it comes out, and it just is what it is. But
Yeah.
to kind of wrap things up here, for those listening who would be interested in working with you, how do they get in touch?
Yeah, man. So if you're watching this on Instagram, it's just going to be dadbod_sculptors. If you're on YouTube, it's you can consume a lot of my long form content to learn more about my journey, and that's just going to be at Dad Bod Sculptors. And then if you're a professional and you use LinkedIn, it's Dane Palarino. So I have good followings and good content on all three of those platforms. So those are probably the best ways to reach me.
Awesome, brother. So you guys, you heard it there, Dane Palarino, uh, complete stud. Thank you so much for coming on, and really much, just really appreciate you, man. It was a great discussion, so thank you,
You too,
and
man.
we'll
I
see
appreciate you
you
having me on.
guys. Absolutely, and we'll see you guys next time.
Cheers.